Okay, Roy.
Roy Whaley, I live in North Central Austin, 78757 Trustee Brentwood. I'll be asking environmental based questions this morning, or this afternoon. It's been going on for a while. I don't think we're going to be held till 2 in the morning, but other than that, we have a stricted period to 3 minute speaking rules for the lunch.
Okay, Lynn?
Lynn Marshall. I am the Vice President of the University Health Contact Team. I'm involved in the South Business and Community Alliance and neighborhood associations in this group and some other things. I'll be asking small business questions.
Carol?
I'm Carol Jorgensen. I live in far northwest Austin. I'm Vice President of the 2020 Incumbent, which is a coalition of neighborhood associations in that area. And I serve on the comprehensive plan task force.
Steve?
Yeah, Steve Spear, Northeast Austin, Democratic Party Precinct Chair.
I'm Mary Arnold, born and raised in Dallas, Texas, worked for Texas Instruments for a year, came back to graduate school, served as an Associate Dean of Women at the University of Texas, and I have a daughter who grew up, born and raised in Austin, and is a small businesswoman. Only she's taller than I am.
Hi, I'm Sandy McMillan. I'm fairly new to Austin. I moved about 8 years ago from New Orleans. I live in 78704, and I've been active. I've held almost every officer's position in the Dawson Neighborhood Association, as well as the Planning Contact Team, and I'm the treasurer of that PAC.
Well, let's start with the introductions. Mayor, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Okay, I'm Leffingwell, currently the mayor of Austin. I'm a native of this city. I graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in engineering, and I served in the United States Navy after graduating, 5 years active duty, 15 as a reservist, and retired at the rank of commander. I've spent my career 31 years as a pilot captain for Delta Airlines. I served as chair of the environmental board for 4 years and was first elected to council in 2005, re-elected in 2008, and elected as mayor, the 53rd mayor of Austin in 2009. My wife, Julie, is a registered nurse, and I have 2 children and 5 grandchildren. I'm very proud of the progress that we've made in the last 3 years, but there's more to do, and that's why I'm running for re-election. I believe that a good quality of life begins with a good job. We've brought thousands of jobs to Austin, private sector jobs, in the last 3 years, and we'll bring thousands more. We've invested millions to get Austin moving again. With the $90 million bond package in 2010, we changed our approach to a multimodal approach, which was approximately half roads and half alternative modes of transportation, such as sidewalks, bicycle infrastructure, and trails. I believe that good schools are the key to a strong city. We've already made a lot of progress in finding ways to help support our local schools, and we'll be doing a lot more in the future. I'm a member of the major city group of mayors. We will address this issue particularly at our meeting in June. Converting to clean energy is important to our environment and our economy. We've already made some big strides, and we'll do more in the future with our plan to provide affordable, reliable, and clean energy to our community. And we need to save the political process. With voter approval, we'll move to geographic representation on the council and move our elections permanently to November so more people can participate in the process. Austin is a very special place. We want to keep it that way. We're planning carefully for the growth that we know is coming. We can do that by preserving our culture of creativity, our traditions, such as the Trail of Lights, which will return to Austin, by the way, in 2012. It's been my great honor to serve as your mayor. My goal is to leave Austin a better place than I found it by doing all we can to make good decisions that will serve us in the future.
Okay. Clay?
My name is Clay Dafoe. I first moved to Austin in 2004 to attend the University of Texas, where I later received a bachelor's degree in history in 2008. Left Austin for a while, but really missed it. Came back almost 2 years ago and have been a very involved and active citizen calling our current leadership out on all the waste and corporate subsidies and spending that we don't need if we want to keep Austin an affordable place to live. And that's kind of one of my main reasons for running, is I believe I can keep Austin affordable. What we have to do is cut out all these deals, whether it's corporate subsidies to Formula One, waiving of development fees downtown for developers, or whether it's adding to the state's Texas Enterprise Fund, where we're basically paying Apple, a major corporation, this Thursday they're going to have a vote on it, $8 million to come down here and move here. These big companies, these big corporations, they don't need handouts from the city government to be able to survive. What we need is a free market business environment here in Austin that allows them to come and prosper and have the same opportunities as every other small business here in our city. Nobody needs special deals, and that will be one thing I will stop as mayor. Another big issue is our utility rates, as you know. We're facing massive increases in our electric rates, as well as what we've seen recently with water rates going up as well, and extra fees added, like the sustainability fees. What we've seen is the city council go on a spending rampage on these issues. Austin Energy, for instance, this past year, approved hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts, which are going out for wind contracts for a huge wind turbine project they're building on the Texas coast. This basically accounts for $75 million a year. 3 of these contracts, the big companies, Duke Energy, Map Royalty, and Iberdrola Renewables, actually the 4th largest utility in the world, a foreign Spanish company. I don't think that's fair to expand our energy base at that great an extent when we're having to pay for it as taxpayers in Austin. I will stop that. The same thing happened with Water Treatment Plant 4 and our water rates. We're having to foot that bill, and that's definitely a project we didn't need. That's completely wasteful. I will also work to open up city council and allow for more citizens communications. I propose to council having a monthly citizens communications day where nothing is voted on at all, and all they have to do is listen to us, citizens of Austin. I fought the council for the last meeting, taking my suggestion and at least passing a one-time in this year, 2012, a citizens forum day, which kind of is similar to my ideas, but I think we can do more. We can do some city council meetings this Saturday to be able to have more people show up, come and get involved. And I believe as candidate for mayor, I will do a good job of opening up transparency at City Hall.
Bridgid.
Thank you all for having me. My name is Bridgid Shea. I served on the council in the mid-90s, from 93 to 96, and I retired after the birth of my first child, who's now 16. And I have a second child who's 13. And they do support my running for mayor, and I do say it might be partly because they want me out of the house, but they said that they support this. I am active with the schools. I'm the vice president of the McCallum PTA. I'm active with the Lamar Middle School PTA. And I feel like this is an issue where there's a very clear distinction in leadership approach and styles, and I'll speak to that in just a minute. Prior to my service on the council, I had the privilege of heading up the Save Our Springs initiative. And I really, we passed, many of you know this, but some of you may not, we passed the strongest water quality ordinance in the nation by citizen initiative. And I really feel like that has set the stage for so much of our very successful economic development that has occurred in the last 20 years. This summer is actually the 20th anniversary. At the time we started the SOS campaign, there was not broad agreement across this community that protecting our environment was essential to our economic well-being. We won that debate. We have wildly succeeded in distinguishing ourselves as a truly green and beautiful community. It's one of the top calling cards for the Chamber of Commerce. But we also must protect it. And so protecting the quality of life and our environmental treasures is one of my priorities and one of my reasons for running for mayor. You all know this in your neighborhood. None of this is protected by accident. It's only protected when we make specific efforts and actions to protect it. There's more background on me, and I'll ask Matt if my campaign manager can have pass this out. We'll give you a little bit more detail on it. I am married, and my husband does work at Austin Energy. He's a green building specialist and spends lots of time looking at and figuring out how to make buildings more energy efficient. And that's also one of the calling cards for the city of Austin. We created the first green building program in the nation, and the U.S. Green Building Council modeled it on that program. It is the wisest investment that we can make in terms of saving energy and creating greater capacity for new energy. But under this council, they've cut the budget for energy efficiency. That budget has gone down 16%. Anyway, I am running for mayor because I also believe that this council has not made affordability a priority. I think that it is squeezing our families, and I want a prosperous, thriving city, but I want one where our grandchildren and our elders and our creative types can afford to live. I only jokingly tell people that in the future, Elgin may be the live music capital of the world because musicians won't be able to afford to live here anymore. We can see it, I think, in many different ways, this trend of increasingly expensive, oh, that's it, I can answer.
I always have to do that.
Okay.
3 minutes.
Okay. We have 4 areas of interest in PAC, and we're going to start off with social equity. Debbie, you want to ask a question?
Yes. My sheet this way. So, with respect to a lack of priorities in the budget at our city level, we have not a stated set of priorities. We don't place affordability on a ranking scale. We don't place social equity on a ranking scale. And we don't weigh those in with the other elements of our city and say, where are we getting most bang for the buck? In line with our African American quality of life, our Hispanic quality of life, African American quality of life, for instance, just under $800,000 has been spent thus far. It's been in play for 8 years. And those were priorities. We were going to prioritize investing in those communities, and yet we see the exodus of the African American community in great droves, and we see the unemployment go up 3 times for African American youth over whites. We see businesses shutting down, and what we want to know here is, what will you prioritize in terms of social equity, and how will you weigh that against the other great needs in our budget?
We'll start with Clay in the middle.
As far as lack of priorities, what we've seen, as I've stated before, is an emphasis on these incentivizing projects to promote density development. I think that's entirely wrong, a complete waste of our tax dollars, and it needs to be stopped if we're going to keep Austin affordable. This is what's driving up the cost of living, that's making it so expensive for longtime residents to live here, and it's the wrong strategy for Austin. I will oppose all these projects that give subsidies or waiving of development fees to different developers, and I'll allow those funds to be used for simple things that we need, like sidewalks for our disabled community. As far as our African American community goes, on some of these issues with police brutality, we need to really step up the game and bring this to the forefront. Council members have the power to inquire into abuse. Any officer that's a city employee or employed by any department. What we saw with the shootings of Nathaniel Sanders and Byron Carter is completely unacceptable. And our city council and mayor and the rest of everybody here needs to do more to investigate those issues. These officers should be called before them and ask questions about what happened on those days. I agree that more needs to be done as far as prioritizing just basic needs, infrastructure costs. Our infrastructure is crumbling here, yet we still have the time to argue about authorizing a $250 million state grant to Formula One. I think it's entirely outrageous, and it needs to stop. As mayor, I will put an end to it. We also need to stop our unconstitutional war on drugs that we promote at the city level. One way we can do that is for low-level drug offenses, instituting.
Rate case is a classic example. When I was on council, that was the last time we did a rate increase. We had an independent consumer advocate, and we insisted that we have someone in that position so that they would be an advocate for the largest category of ratepayers, which is the residential ratepayers. That person worked out an agreement among all the parties, so there wasn't an appeal taken to the PUC or a big mess dropped in the front of the legislature, which is what I'm afraid is going to happen as a result of this. They worked it out. It wasn't perfect, but there was agreement among the different ratepayers that they could live with it. That was not done in this case. There was not an independent rate advocate. There was also no direction to staff to say, bring back a rate case that is affordable and fair. And we see that in the rate proposal that the staff brought back. To incredibly lopsided and unfair with huge unacceptable increases both on residential ratepayers, on small business, and on churches and houses of worship. Now they're having to go back and try and redo it, and I don't think anybody's fooled by the fact that they have postponed taking any action on it prior to the election. We need to know what their intent is in terms of raising electric rates. They've also not included anywhere in the rate case any honest answers to questions, and I've been in these forums when these questions have been asked about what will be the impact of the incredibly ill-advised biomass wood burner, which the environmental community and consumer community nearly unanimously oppose. I'm really worried that we're stuck with that thing, and it will have huge impact on the cost of energy, and that's not reflected in the answers that the staff is giving on the rate case. How much more time do I have? On water, we can also see this on water. We have I think you've all seen Paul Robbins' study, we have the highest water costs in the top 10 largest cities in the state. And part of the reason for that is because we have pursued a policy, or the city has, of transferring the cost of new development onto the backs of existing residents. I will absolutely change these policies. It is the wrong direction. It is hurting our city over time, hurting our residents over time, and not good for our overall economy. A very quick example, in the past, developers had to pay their share, their portion of the extension of large water and sewer lines. In 2009, the mayor and council changed that policy to make it a 100% reimbursement policy. So what that means in real terms is we are paying the bill for the entire cost of the $13 million plus extension of water and sewer lines to the Formula One site. These are exactly the wrong direction for city policies. We should not be asking existing residents to foot the bill for these kinds of large infrastructure extensions. The same thing is happening with undercharging for impact fees. If you look at the studies that have been done, comparing our impact fees to the fees in surrounding communities, we only charge a fraction.
Reimbursement. The only thing that happened in 2009 is the size of the water line main that qualified for 100% reimbursement was changed from 36 inches to 24. In the case of Formula One, by the way, that service extension request had already been granted for a subdivision out there, and the service extension request was just transferred to Formula One. In the case of Formula One, it would have made the 2009 change would have made absolutely no difference. That 100% reimbursement would have occurred under either scenario before 2009 or after. So I wanted to address that first. And second, I want to address the issue with electric rates. We have not had a rate increase since 1993. Everybody acknowledges that's been way too long. We're in the process of that very painful process of going through a change right now. It's true that Austin Energy has put forth a proposal to the council. As a matter of fact, they've given us two different proposals. We have rejected both. I was the first person on the council to come out and say that the initial proposal by Austin Energy was a non-starter. I announced that on my blog post on January 15th. So now we're going through the process of doing several things. First, we have to determine what the true revenue need is. They're advertising $126 million. We're not sure that's correct. We've asked, the reason for the extra time is we've asked the city auditor to go through that analysis and determine what the actual need is. He has told us that he would probably be able to do that. If he's lucky, he might be able to do that in late April. But he is not guaranteeing that. It could be done. In addition to that, we're going through the process right now of having 10 additional work sessions to work our way through that process, and we will come to a vote after we have studied all the details. It has absolutely nothing to do with the election. But we're going to come up with a proposal that determines what the real need is, and we're going to allocate among all the various classes what the affordable rate is. We're going to make sure that the folks in our low-income people and churches are not adversely impacted to a significant degree. There will be increases in electric rates. There have to be, because there haven't been any since 1993. If I've got just a few more seconds, I want to talk about water rates. It's not true that we're the highest. We have the highest water rate in the state of Texas among the top 10 cities. We are near the top. As a matter of fact, we're second, but that's only if you consider the average use of 7,700 gallons per customer. If you're a low-income person using Austin water utility, your rate is actually lower now than it was in 2008. The fixed fee is waived, and we have a tiered rate structure, which it was drawn that way on purpose to encourage conservation. So if you're in the lower part of that rate structure, you're paying less. If you're in the higher part of that rate structure, you're paying a whole lot more.
Okay, thanks.
I'll continue this discussion on water in the next question.
Whatever you want. Well, then maybe we should jump to the environmental question with Mr. Leffingwell.
Well, as much as I'd like to look at the list here and talk about water rates or electric rates or heritage trees or transit or east side creek setback protections, I'm going to go instead with warning at a yes or no on State Highway 45 Southwest. And I just want to say that the right-of-way is there, over 300 environmental features, recharge features, just in the right-of-way. This is a license to open up sprawl of Butte, Kyle, and other parts. Both of these issues are addressed in the Imagine Austin plan, that we're against sprawl, that we do want to protect the watershed there. It's a short jump from 16.6 to say, well, let's go ahead and take it over to I-35 where there's a major growth node in the Imagine Austin plan. Will you say no to State Highway 45?
Well, I don't get to say.
Let's go in order. There's a new question. Is this Bridgid's turn to start?
Absolutely, I'll say no. There was a scientific consensus document that said we should move all of our infrastructure expenditures off of our environmentally sensitive watershed and into areas where there are essentially preferred growth, not corridors, at least designated areas. I don't think we should be putting any more infrastructure investments, particularly public investments of this kind, onto those environmentally sensitive areas.
Clay?
Absolutely not. I would not support including that in the comprehensive plan. I believe State Highway 45 would open up new sprawl and an already congested traffic patterns that we see. It's a way to use MOPAC as a highway for regional transportation. I believe in keeping MOPAC local, and will oppose any efforts to bring huge 18-wheeler trucks onto MOPAC and use that as a regional thoroughfare. To me, it sounds a lot like the Trans-Texas corridor, but that's something I entirely oppose. I don't think we need to use MOPAC as a feeder to bigger regional development. We don't need toll lanes on MOPAC. We don't need any of these things that are just going to grow government and basically abuse our road system here. I entirely oppose State Highway 45 and will certainly keep it out of the comprehensive.
Okay, Lee.
Well, first of all, we don't get to say no on State Highway 45. That is going to be a Travis County decision and a Hayden County decision. The city of Austin will have no part in the funding of it. We have taken it out of our Imagine Austin plan. I think it was in there originally for a little while, but after a lot of input, that has been taken out. So, I want to go back just a second for this discussion of water rates, if I can. Is that all right?
Sure. Push that inside.
Well, I'd just like to say that it's been taken out, it's been put back in, it's been taken out, put back in. And what I'm being told is that staff, which keeps putting it back in, isn't worried because according to Campo, they have to follow the Campo plan, and Campo says it's there. Although there are multiple examples where we have had projects in Austin that don't follow the Campo plan, as well as other municipalities that are involved in Campo. So since we're part of the BCP and county initiative to protect endangered species, Flint Ridge Cave is right there, we can say no to this. We can support our friends at the county. And would you be willing to support our friends at the county when they say no to it?
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm chair of the BCCP committee.
he's got a few.
He wanted to talk about water, should he do it now, or?
Well, does he have any more time in this segment?
I didn't time him, because it was supposed to be yes or no question. You can say
Okay.
yes or no.
I can get it later. That's
All right.
okay.
Okay, there is an opportunity for wrap-up later. We're going to go to small business, Lynn.
But I've been talking to a lot of small business people in town in the last several years, and a few things. This is a kind of a summary of what I've been getting from them. They say, if you're going to make it in Austin as a small business person, you have to be able to move fast to capture opportunities. The small businesses keep running into lots of roadblocks for the city, and people are calling Austin the Department of Business Prevention because the delivery system is so inefficient and it's in conflict with itself, and it's costly for the small business people because there are problems being caused. The overlap between departments and within the bureaucracy causes things to be very slow, unresponsive, and contradictory. This is about getting the grit out of the system that has come up over many years, probably. But it gums things up on a day-to-day basis regarding permitting, getting clear instructions of what people are supposed to do to accommodate the requirements, having straightforward requirements, and the removal of burdens that small businesses get saddled with. They want to know, how would you get the friction out of the system and streamline things? This is not about cutting any legitimate oversight.
Please first.
Let me say, Lynn, that I agree with everything you just said. It's a major problem, and I have been trying to address it in a number of ways, saying that the city had told them the carport was too close to the property line. And my dad built that carport. He probably didn't even know he needed a permit right then, back in those days. But something that's been on the ground like that 30 or 40 years or more, certainly this should not be a problem for anybody. So we do need a top to bottom review. I totally understand how important small business is to the city of Austin. It is the major part of our economy. 80% of the businesses in Austin have fewer than 10 employees. 2/3 of all the private sector jobs are in companies with less than 100 employees. So it really is the heart of our economy, and we got to start paying a lot more attention to it in the future. So with the time I got left, I'm going to go back to water. I'm going to go back to water. Most of our water rate difficulties now spring from inaction by the council in the 90s. In the 90s, the council actually voted to defer, not pay $130 billion in debt. They paid nothing on the debt for 10 years, interest only. In addition to that, they deferred maintenance on our existing, particularly our wastewater systems, to the point where in 2001-2002 time frame, the EPA issued an administrative order telling us we had to do it. And we did it and completed that process in about 2007. I know Bridgid's familiar with this because she worked with a lot of contracts on the Austin Clean Water Program. But that cost the city of Austin, that inaction, this all pay me now or pay me a lot more later, cost the city almost $500 million. That's the kind of economies that we really can't afford. So that we're making up for those days right now. But as I say, we're doing this the very best way that we can and trying to put in provisions so that low-income people are protected from high water rates and do it in a way that respects our environment too and encourages water conservation by having tiered rates.
Okay. Mike.
I think we can do a lot more to open up these roadblocks to small business development. I agree with your question and your premise there. What we have now is permitting schemes that are too complex, too involved. We need to simplify things. Austin City Council right now is running a taxi cartel, for instance, where they are arbitrarily deciding the amount of taxi permits they decide to give out. There are recently new ones afforded to Lone Star Cab and Austin Cab. And I think the whole idea that Austin City Council should regulate how many cabs are on the road through permitting schemes and arbitrarily handing them out is completely wrong. And that, I think, is a grave abuse, an example of a grave abuse of our city government's power. If we look at what the city council is doing in their overall comprehensive planning that's making it harder for small business, we can look at the downtown Austin plan and certain elements in there that want to change permitted use for cocktail lounges to conditional use. I believe this is a straight attack on 6th Street and our live music business downtown, and it needs to stop if we're going to have an open, free market economy in a business environment that's going to attract more businesses and organizations to build here. So there's a lot we can do, but we need to open up the permitting schemes and allow them to be more streamlined, interpret our requirements across the board so we don't have small businesses suffering because of undue burdens on them to obtain their permits or licenses versus big companies that are able to get leniency in how the city bureaucracy interprets whether they're meeting the requirements. So there's many things we can do, and I would make that definitely a focus of my position in office.
Bridgid?
From the time I was on the council, this has been a really vexing problem. I actually pushed a resolution to streamline redevelopment in the downtown, because in the mid-90s there wasn't much activity happening in the downtown. A lot of those buildings were boarded up. It was the most maddening part of being on the council was to see how little change we could get from these city departments just to help people redevelop in the downtown. There were many frustrating meetings with city staff and small business people that were trying to get their certificates of occupancy to open up businesses, and the staff were requiring them to do ridiculous things like build a $30,000 new manhole out their back door right next to an existing manhole. And I had Randy Dawson in my office when he was having the water wastewater utility, and I said, Randy, why are they making this guy do this? And he literally put his head in his hands and shook his head. He said, I can't explain this to you. So I would actually make it a condition of their job review to make it a priority that we have got to streamline these rules and regulations. I just think it's another one of these things where they think, oh, the council says this, the council's going to be gone in a few years, or they're busy with other things. I do know that we are very, very short-staffed in the permit review department. We literally do not have enough people to do this job. And I've also just heard recently that we haven't raised those fees for permitting for 20 years. So we not only don't have enough staff, there's not enough revenue for them to be able to do their job properly. But I'm very sympathetic to the problems the small business community has. I've worked with the Go Local card company that exclusively deals with a reward card to encourage customer loyalty and support small business. And the stories that we hear from these small businesses are heartbreaking in so many cases. And I think there's just a great deal more that can be done. I would make it the condition of their job review, both the person in charge of that department and higher up. This has got to be made a priority. But I also want to address something the mayor said, because I heard this before and I was kind of puzzled by it. There was never a vote on council when I was on council from 93 to 96 to defer maintenance on our water wastewater utility. And in fact, I confirmed this with Randy Goss just the other day. He was the director of the water utility at the time. He and I had many very difficult conversations because staff was telling me the utility wasn't properly maintaining the system, and I was demanding that Randy tell the council what's the cost of the deferred maintenance on the system. Why are we not keeping up with maintenance? And he kept saying, we don't know, we don't have that number, there's not a problem. And so there was never any action brought to the council. It was in the context of discussing whether or not we would extend new water and wastewater utilities on the Barton Springs watershed for the Lantana development. And I kept saying, we can't do that if we're not maintaining our system. But there was never a vote or any action by the council, and the staff actively refused to give us that information.
Can I just respond briefly?
Sure.
I was saying there was never a vote specifically to defer maintenance, but there was never a vote to address the rates that sufficiently pay for that maintenance. There were several votes. Water rates were not changed in the 1990s, were never increased, and that's why they were unable to do the maintenance because they didn't have the money.
Obviously a complicated situation. There's lots of history here, but we're going to move on to the neighborhood question.
Yes, Burnett Road is a transit corridor in the Imagine Austin plan, and with the approval last year of some five-story apartment complexes, it appears that the density desired for corridors has already begun. Staff has indicated that Imagine Austin neighborhood plans are in alignment with, that Imagine Austin is in alignment with adopted neighborhood plans. If contact teams for neighborhoods disagree with this and have a problem and say they are not, do you, if you were elected or re-elected, agree to postpone any type of vote on Imagine Austin until these issues are resolved?
Let's start with West End. It was Lee, so I guess Clay, it's your turn. You're up.
Yes, I agree. I think if there is neighborhood opposition to those corridors, we need to stop them. I'm completely against having these corridors and promoting mixed-use development because I believe it's just going to end up being another abuse of city funds. That's all government can do is either give money to reward certain behavior or basically penalize people and have them pay the government money for behavior that they don't want. And I think the mixed-use corridors is the wrong way to go because basically what's going to happen is we're going to have to pay for the growth of corporations to come in and build in Austin this mixed-use development. It's going to drive up property values and it's going to eventually drive up our property taxes as well. And that's a big problem that we've been seeing with these kind of deals. They need to be stopped, and I oppose the fact that they include these corridors in the Imagine Austin plan. I think it's the wrong direction to go for a community, and we need to give much more deference to our neighborhoods in accepting their input and what they have to say, instead of using the blunt force of government basically to force certain things to happen and to force certain development. While they say, it's all part of the bigger plan to increase our use of public transit, it doesn't work. I mean, you look at what's happening in South Lamar and all the mixed-use development that was built there. It hasn't improved our traffic situation at all. It's actually added more cars and traffic to the road. So I think it's a failed policy that needs to stop, and I would completely be against it being included in the Imagine Austin plan and would certainly always defer to neighborhoods when it comes to important decisions like that for our community.
Bridgid.
I remember this discussion at the very beginning of the comprehensive planning process, that there wasn't a sufficient budget to do a really meaningful job of comprehensive planning. And I seem to recall that there was very little budget for actual outreach. And so you had community organizations like Livable City trying to do the outreach on their couple of nickels. And I just think I really say this is a failure of leadership to not properly set this whole important comprehensive planning process in motion in the right way. And what I keep hearing is that the planning process seems to have become an enemy of the citizens in the neighborhoods in the community, where people almost think that, there's tremendous suspicion and ill will and bad relationships, which is not the way a comprehensive plan process should be. There should be extensive work with the neighborhoods and the community and extensive participation. And I keep hearing stories of conflicting accounts from staff about whether or not the neighborhood plans will be the primary guidance. I feel very strongly that the neighborhood plans have to be the primary guidance for the Imagine Austin plan. And where there's a conflict, the